Hey y'all, Zeus here. This is my second video in the series, look at my map for my map Koth Nuke, and this is version Alpha 2. So I was able to get a test with my pug group, and a play test that is, and went fairly well. It was definitely strange, not exactly what I expected, but it's a weird feeling watching people play a map that you designed. And then people don't always play the way that you expected them to. So first of all, I expected a lot of people to want to like surf out of this ramp and come in here, but for the most part, people were going out either the main direction or this direction. Previously, this middle building was kind of a kill box, so one of the major changes I made was I widened this building up, added some breathing room, made this doorway a bit bigger, so it should make it less dire. It's still kind of a kill box, but maybe widening it up will help people push out of it. I think eventually, if it plays the same way it did during the playtest, I'll probably need to kind of gut this building out and maybe extend it with some geometry over here. Another thing that happened was people were trying to forward hold and push up, and one of the demo men on one of the teams was able to get some sticks underneath the truck, or like hidden in the wheel well, kind of cheesy, and they were able to get some kills with that. So this is now clipped off, so you can't it's a little bit more consistent. So if you're shooting someone, you're gonna hit them because the truck is basically solid. I don't know if it makes sense to have the entire thing clipped off or just like the weird geometry around the wheel wells and all that. But for now, it's gonna be all clipped off. We'll see if people complain about it. Another thing, I mentioned this last time, but the ramp was really annoying, and yeah, people noticed. So I changed it for. I don't think this fits stylistically into what I want, but it's a cheap little ramp from I think this is from Frontline, looks like. But it's basically just a little wider of a ramp. As well, I clipped off this chemical container, so it should make this a little bit easier to walk around and you don't get like pushed off anymore. Another small layout thing. This was a pretty nasty sightline. Sniper could basically walk out of spawn, come right here, and see a good part of the point from here. So this container has been moved over to just basically block that altogether. So now Sniper has to get a lot further up and be at risk of being attacked from that direction. Another thing you'll see is this vent is now coming all the way out instead of coming out here. So this should give it more of a purpose, and the team pushing in can like try and go for a flank. Again, I don't know if it's going to be used in that purpose. I do want to just see how it's played, and maybe I'll have to rethink the whole flank idea, or maybe make this vent bigger, maybe different in some way. I'm not really sure. Open to suggestions, so leave them in the comments if you got them. This room hasn't changed much other than I put a medium pack here so that it encourages people to play in here maybe a little bit more. Maybe the demo can push out of here easier because he's got supply of ammo. This up here also was really cheesy, and people were spamming down from here a lot, so that changed. That's all clipped off now, and you can't get up there at all, even as scout, even as soldier. Just completely clipped off. So yeah. And oh yes, the point. The control point had some overlays on, and I learned that apparently people still have terrible computers in 2020. So the capture zone, as you see, is now indicated by this brush, so that it's like very obvious where it is. A couple people complained about that, so here we are. Yeah, so one of the big pieces of feedback I got was that this is it's hard to contest Sniper when he's in here. So like he has this sightline, which isn't like amazing, but it's pretty long and you really can't do much about it. So you basically have to play like not there ever. As well, he can hold this sightline here. So if you're say you're playing medic, you basically like have to play kind of around here. Otherwise, you're at pretty high risk of getting sniped. You can sneak into here. So hopefully making this building a little bit bigger will help with this as well. But you're kind of confined to here unless you can try and cross this sight line and play over here. This room became kind of a kill box, this computer room. So instead of the half ammo, I put a half health here. So this should encourage, and it's on the side of the team pushing in. So this should try to equalize some of the fights that happened in here. And yeah, that's about all the changes I made. Not too many. I'm holding off on doing anything super drastic. I want to see how this plays in a variety of situations. Like I'm going to have it tested on TF2 maps, and there's another group of players that test competitive maps, not just my pug group. So I want to see how that plays with them, and see if some common themes emerge in both of those. And a big shout out to Mega Pie Man for your suggestions. I didn't know that there was an entity called Info Lighting, which I'm not using to great effect here, but I didn't know that existed. And you know, a problem I've had in other maps that I made or tried to make was like the rocks would be a little bit below the ground, and then they would be like black, and I'd be like, whoa, what the heck? So this is a way you can make the props, like you can set their lighting origin somewhere else, so it's not you know, at the origin of the model. So thanks for that, learning stuff about Hammer. And also, I thought I had compiled cube maps and apparently didn't. So I learned a couple ways to go check. So you can actually just go open your BSP and GCFscape and find whether or not you built the cube maps correctly. So I might eventually just write a program that like validates that I got, I go through some checklist of stuff. In software development, we call those linters. Basically what you do is you just, you sanity check a bunch of things. So, maybe it'll go through the compile log. Maybe it could be an extension to CompilePal. Go through the compile log and say like, did you do these certain things? Do you have cube maps? Do you have, any number of things that have you packed your map? Did you repack it? And maybe even then it could also turn it into a bzip as well for compression purposes, but that's neither here nor there. Trying to think a lot about how I can increase my productivity with this, because there is kind of a long iteration cycle. You try and compile a map, and then all the mirroring takes a while. So I think there's things we can do to try and make that easier. So hopefully my software skills can come in handy. And one other thing I've been doing is trying to do some modeling and understand the modeling and texture system, which is, as you might imagine, pretty obtuse. So I made these custom gameplay signs. So you know how you normally have like resupply or control point or whatever. I made these custom ones, and I think, and let me know what you think about this idea, but I think it would be really interesting if on a lot of competitive maps, people make these kind of cute callouts for the locations. I think it'd be awesome if I just wrote it down so it's already there. So maybe when people make up a name for a place, then I'll just label it that. So then people always refer to it as that, and then they're like, hey, where is garage? It's like, well, garage is right here because it's going to say garage, right? Just an idea. I like being able to, because these are familiar to people too. So it's still immersive in the TF2 style. So it's not like I'm making up some completely out of character thing. I'm just kind of modifying existing assets. And one other thing, I added a hard hat in here because I think it looks really good. I want to try modeling stuff myself. So I've been working on first of all, I'm working on a cooling tower model because nuclear power plants need those, and that'll go in the skybox or the 3D skybox, or maybe right outside here. I'm not sure where, but trying to work on that. And as well as, instead of having this be a brush, I'm going to have something that looks kind of like these lockers in the texturing, but is just like a little coat rack that you can hang stuff on. A little bit of enhancement to spawn rooms, because I think this looks pretty derpy. And I think that'd be a pretty easy thing to do to kind of get my, beak wet in modeling. It's not like super fancy. It's not really crazy. It's going to use one material or one texture. It's going to be very simple. Most of the texture is just going to be basically just silver. So there's not a lot of like crazy stuff I'm going to have to figure out. And it's pretty, a lot of it's pretty confusing. So I'm trying my best to learn from whatever resources I can find. And yeah, that's about it. Gonna have this tested on TF2 maps, and I guess we'll see you in Alpha 3. Thanks for watching. Of course, hit that like and subscribe button, and yeah, we'll see you in the next one.